So I received a hell of a question, and this could be a lengthy video, just to warn you. Summary, it's about 3-note per string octave licks or riffs, combining different modes, like going from a major riff to a minor, and then into harmonic minor and melodic minor, and playing stuff starting on different intervals within different modes and how they relate to each other. And so yes, this is a hell of a question. So let me read what was sent to me first, so you have an understanding of what's going to happen here, and let's see what I can put together. Basically, he says, I would like to know about 3-note per string octave licks, not only play them, but understand how to use them in any key and how to make them my own. And also how they relate to 3 notes per string scales, both major and minor, harmonic and melodic. So I asked, do you know 3-note per string shapes already? And he says, yes, I know a few major and some harmonic shapes based on the root and the second. I've been working on shapes based on thirds and fourths. And after some clarification, he meant starting on the third and fourth notes within the key. So let's say this is something that you want to learn, and you want to be able to make your own like 3-note per string octave licks and whatnot. And I'm assuming octave meaning like you're going to start at 1 note and then work your way up to a higher octave. So what I'll do to save some video time, instead of playing a bunch of different scale shapes, I will link to a blog entry that accompanies this video, so you can check out a bunch of different 3-note per string scale shapes. So let's talk about how the 3-note per string scale shapes relate to one another. Let's take the key of G, for example. Starting on your G note, 3rd fret on the low E string, you go up this pattern: 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. So that is that's your G major scale or Ionian mode, just up and down 3 notes per string. Now you have a scale that starts on every single note within any given key, any given mode. So the key of G, you have the notes G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. So when we're talking about these shapes relating to one another, you're staying in the same 7 notes. You're just doing 3 notes per string starting on each of those points. So basically, the 2nd note in the key of G is A. You'd have this pattern. 3rd note in was B. You'd have this pattern. 4th note in is C, and you'd have this pattern. So as far as how these relate to one another, well, they are all in the same key. You're using all the same 7 notes. So you could play essentially the same thing staying on like maybe a couple strings or even just 1 string. So taking that first shape, for example, instead of going just straight up the scale, I'll go fairly slow and play the same thing, just all on the low E string. And I ran out of room. Basically, I got up to the E note on the B string. So right now, we're looking at part of the Guitar Grimoire, which is a book I recommend for anyone who really wants to learn about scales, scale shapes, and all that good stuff. So right here is the, as it says, complete fretboard. And complete fretboard meaning these are 7 different scale shapes all put together covering the different notes in the key of G. And the first shape that I played right here. So you see we got 3-5-7, 3-5-7, 4-5-7, 4-5-7, 5-7-8, 5-7-8. Now, this book, the way it's set up right now, it's basically starting fairly low on your fretboard. So it has the 7th mode listed first, which is your Locrian shape or Locrian mode. So comparing this to this, what I'm going to do is cover up part of Locrian mode and part of the Ionian mode. Ionian is also your major scale. It's the same thing. See, right there, you have the exact same amount of dots or the same notes left. So I'm covering up the first note on each string right here and covering up the last note on each string right here, which leaves the same amount of notes. Playing the Dorian mode, which is the second scale shape in key, we're going to have the same thing happen. I'll cover up the first note on each string here, cover up the last note on each string here, and you're going to be left with the same shape. There you go, same shape. So the same notes are being used. This is going to happen every single time. So you got Dorian mode here, Phrygian mode here, cover up the first notes here, last notes here, same shape will be left. Boom, same notes left. Now between Phrygian and Lydian, same notes left. Now we'll use Lydian and Mixolydian. Once again, left with the same notes. Now we'll cover up Mixolydian and Aeolian. Aeolian is also your minor scale. Same thing. As you can see, we are left with the same notes. If the book had Locrian listed right here, you would see the same thing happening by covering up the first notes here and the last notes on Locrian. But see that shape there? Here I am covering up the first notes on each string on the minor scale shape. Here I am covering up the last note on each string for the Locrian shape. So as you can see, there was still the same pattern left. So within this full fretboard are all 7 scale shapes. So there is your Ionian mode, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian at the higher octave, Locrian at the lower octave. That brings us back to the Ionian. You also have the Aeolian mode down in the lower octave with the open strings, the same shape you have starting on the 12th fret. Another cool thing that happens with these 3-note per string patterns is the last 3 notes you finish with, say on the high E string, those are going to be the same 3 notes you start with on the low E string. So you see you got your 5, 7, 8 here to ends, 5, 7, 8 here begins. 7, 8, 10 ends up here on the high E string. 7, 8, 10 begins on the low E string for the next shape. This is going to happen every single time. 8, 10, 12. 8, 10, 12. So hopefully that helps you understand how those different scale shapes are connected. So when it comes to playing lead or writing your own stuff, you know, it doesn't really matter what scale shape you use. They're all connected. They're all going to be in the same key. So if you want to know your 3-note per string scale shapes, it's really going to be a matter of memorization. You just got to work on memorizing your stuff. Now, as far as what you can do within those shapes, I mean, I could write down 100 different examples, and there are just a ton of different examples online right now anyway. So, you know, I thought about it, and this, if I was to give an example with every single shape, you know, that would probably take at least an hour to really get in depth with it. So what I would like to, so what I suggest, and I know this kind of answer is not the popular one, but put on a backing track and just start playing. You got to just start hitting notes within those scales to start creating leads. Now, this is also assuming that you know at least a little bit about playing, and I'm guessing by the question that was asked, this person knows at least a little bit about playing guitar, so they know how to do hammer-ons, pull-offs, how to pick notes and put them together in a line. So it doesn't, like, So it really doesn't matter how you do it, anything will work. So, I mean, that's just me noodling around and just a few shapes and just knowing how to connect them. Knowing how to connect them, that's just a matter of memorization. You got to know how each shape goes. And you can start connecting things from one string to the next or just one fret to the next, because you don't have to do everything one shape and then move to the next shape. You can do things like so you can do something like that where you're connecting the notes in a more horizontal fashion instead of just straight vertical up and down. So another part of the question that gets a bit more musical or creative, he says, I wanted to know if I can combine them, referring to major scale, minor scale, harmonic minor, and so on. I wanted to know if I can combine them. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm playing an A major scale with a pattern based on the roots on the 6th string. How can I move that pattern through different octaves? And can I follow that pattern with an A harmonic or melodic pattern, a melodic minor pattern, and that way combine the major and minor scales in one lick or phrase? Well, the quick answer is yes, you absolutely can combine it in any way that you want to, but there's a couple ways of thinking about this. So let's say just major and minor, for example. Every key has a relative major to its minor and minor to its major. So the key of G, like we were using for this video, the key of G has the G major scale, and the relative minor of G major is E minor, and the relative minor to G major is E minor. So you could just do something like play within that G scale shape and then slide up into the Aeolian shape. Probably easier just to stay at the higher octave the whole time. So within the major scale shape up here, down to the Aeolian shape. So major scale shape, minor scale shape. So that's one way to cover some ground, is just go between the major scale and the minor scale shape. As far as moving like a major scale pattern up to different octaves, can you? Yes, you can. Part of it is dependent on how many strings you're going to use, because if you're doing the whole 6-string shape, you can only move that up here. But if you're going to go root note to octave covering 3 strings, that changes things a bit, because you can start here. Yes, you can go up here again, but you also have the same pattern or same group of notes here, 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 here. You can even do it on 2 strings. You just need to know where your notes are laid out on your fretboard. So if you know where your G notes are on the fretboard, you just start on a G, climb up through the notes, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then stop on the octave G, and that's your major scale shape right there. So one of the drawbacks to doing video answers like this is without the back and forth feedback with the student and myself, I have to make a lot of assumptions. So hopefully to the person who asked these questions, I'm answering them in the way that you want. When it comes to connecting things like your minor scale into harmonic minor or melodic minor, you know, it gets a little Well, it gets very subjective, because you can play like you can play like an E minor scale and then do a E harmonic minor scale. Or you can like go minor up and then harmonic minor back down. Same thing with like throwing in the melodic minor. I believe the classical way of doing it is melodic minor on the way up, natural minor on the way back down. So it doesn't matter how you go from one to the next, and this seems to be a pretty popular question. People ask, how do I know when to change keys? How do I know when to change scale shapes? It doesn't matter. The only way to learn what sounds good to you is to experiment, just try things out and see how you like it. Easy rule of thumb to follow, let's say you want to go between your natural minor to harmonic minor and melodic minor and interchange those three modes. Use the same root note. So work on playing, like I just did, in E natural minor, then try going into your E harmonic minor, and I go back to E natural minor and then go into E melodic minor. So tell you what, if all that stuff is still too vague, and I understand that hearing something like you just have to try might be too much freedom in order for you to get a good grasp on this stuff, please keep in mind I'm trying to keep the video lessons somewhat compact so it's not dragging on too long. But if you need more actual examples, I'm happy to write out some riffs, but I ask that you be a bit more specific. So tell me what key you want it in, tell me what 2 or 3 types of exotic scales you want. So let's say, for example, you do want me to write out a riff going from natural minor into harmonic minor and finishing with melodic minor. Tell me, let me know how you want that done. Let me know if you want something going from like the key of G into the key of A and then finishing in the key of B. So 3 different keys, 1 riff. You can do that stuff. Something I used to do just to have fun with is I like to use a compact minor scale shape, which is this. And I would do for fun, without any backing track, is I would just mess around with some improv, and then I would use any note within that shape to pivot or shift into a different key. So, for example, So unfortunately, it is a little challenging to think about shifting into a different scale, shape, or key and saying when I'm doing it at the same time, but hopefully you could hear when I would change keys. There should be some kind of like, what the hell is going on with your ears if you're actually able to pick up on that stuff. Some people might not hear the difference in key, but for a good deal of us, that's a learned skill. You got to learn how to pick up on changes like that. But hopefully some of you are experienced enough that you could hear when the shift in key happens. And even that, to me, has a very melodic minor scale quality to just to my ear. And it's a fun thing to do if you just want to mess around without a backing track, still work on improv, writing your own stuff on the spot. Just pause on a note and then use that note to start the next scale shape. So again, if you need something more specific, if you need like 3 examples of going from one thing to the next, going from like your natural minor into harmonic minor and then melodic minor, tell me what key you want. Tell me if you want examples of changing keys. If you need a few ideas with that, I'm happy to write out some riffs for you. Just all I ask is be as specific as you possibly can. It helps me out a lot, and it helps me put together a bit more cohesive videos. That wraps things up for this video. Please ask any questions you may have. If you liked what you saw in this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you have yet to do so. I would very much appreciate it. Lastly, Mile High Shred has a Patreon page. It would be very awesome of you to check it out. YouTube viewers can click the annotation up right now for more information. Facebook users, please use the video description to find more information. And thank you very much for watching.